Hi, I'm Noelle Lowry with Urban Link Group. We are an integrated marketing communication firm here in Idaho. When we were asked to speak at Boise Startup Week, we were, of course, very excited. And then learning that the topic was about resilience just seems so applicable to so much of what we do and even the times that we're in right now. Marketing innately has to be resilient. Has to have pivots and agility built into it. And that is part of what we do for our clients. But before we can actually deploy marketing programs, we have to look at the company as a whole. And we have a proprietary process called the link effect. And the first step in that is what we call getting your footing. And that's all about foundation. Are the business fundamentals, have they been established? Are they working? And, are there gaps or weaknesses that we can come in and help, shore up? Our first guest, Tony Sang, knows a lot about this. He has built multiple businesses. He's grown them. He's even exited them in spaces across advertising, marketing, mortgage, and currently he's the president of World Connection. He is going to be speaking with another great entrepreneur, our CEO, Christopher D. Jones, who also has multiple successes under his belt. The conversation, we enjoyed it. I know you will too. It just has a lot of really great thoughts and strategies for building resilience into your company from the start.
One of the topics is resiliency in business. We want to really understand, situations where you maybe had to be extra resilient. Obviously we're dealing with a pandemic now, and businesses are having a hard time adapting to the new normal.
Sure.
And that might mean remote, working. It might mean, different software solutions. There's all different things. But can you talk to me about some experiences where you had to kind of, with limited resources, pull everything together?
Sure. I always felt, and I've always said that there's more opportunity when things are bad than things are good. Mm-hmm. When things are great, everyone's doing great. Mm-hmm. You have very little competitive advantage in a great industry or a great market. So I actually like adversity, because if there's adversity in a certain market or certain situation, I see opportunity. If something's harder than the average thing to do, to me, there's more opportunity to be had.
Sure.
Yeah. So throughout my career, I've taught my son, I've taught the people I do business with, is that if it doesn't break at least 3 or 4 times, it's not worth doing.
Sure.
Every business, it's gotta feel like it's about to fail at least 3 or 4 times, or something's wrong. So
sure.
I think adversity is just part of the game. You have to be prepared for it. Usually through adversity, you learn the most. I rather grow slower. And that's probably what held me back from some higher levels of success. And I'm not saying my way's right. I really wish that there's certain points in my career that I went out for secondary funding, got more funding so I can grow the business faster, capture more of the market at the time. I'm a little more conservative in my general nature, that I rather take a sure dollar than a 50-50 $10, because I'll make a lot of 100% dollars to hopefully make up for the 50-50 $10, whatever the percentage is. So, I've always gone the self-funded way or the partnership way.
Okay.
Strategic partners.
Sure.
Finding a partner within industry.
So let's talk about partnerships.
Okay.
What does that look like for you? How do you form them? Do you start out that way? Obviously, you mentioned that you have in the past,
Yes.
But can you?
So it's funny because I talk about this subject a lot with friends who come for me for advice starting businesses. And oftentimes there's a business where the 5 guys are in a room and they have this great idea. We're going to do this business. And everyone's like, okay, there's 5 of us. We're 20% owners each. And that's what my first thing is, stop. That's kind of not how it works. So I like to speak in analogies. And my analogy with that is, I see a business like a human being. There's the head, which is the brain. He's the person who knows the most. There's the arms. The arms is the guy who brings in all the different pieces. You have the contacts, you have the sourcing. And there's the legs, the guy who's driving that business, running it every day, pushing this business forward. And there's the wallet, the guy who's funding it. And to me, every business has these parts, and some businesses are more finance heavy. We're going to buy a lot of crap, we're going to sell a lot of crap. Now, there's not much other pieces. There's a lot of businesses are operationally heavy. Now, but every business, most businesses in some shape, way, shape, or form have these pieces. And so for me, I sit down in a room and say, hey, listen, this is a great idea. Who's going to fund this? And you raise your hand. I got the $500,000, right? You're the wallet. Someone else has the $500,000. Well, we don't need two fundings. Let's figure out who's going to provide the funding at the most reasonable, equitable for the company. Because we have to treat the company as its own entity. And one guy goes, well, two guys raise their hands. I can run it. Well, I don't need two guys running it. Who's more qualified? And sometimes you break it down, you realize when there's 8 guys in a room, 4 guys are just there with the same assets they bring to the situation. And you don't need redundancy. And I think part of that is, so part of forming the company and is having an early understanding of everyone's roles. And I think the most important thing I've ever given advice about is you can be an owner, you can be an employee, you can be both. But everyone needs to be paid for what they do. And I think I see a lot of partnerships implode because people don't recognize that. The earlier you establish roles, the earlier you establish expectations, the longer this business relationship will last.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So, obviously, you've learned lessons along the way. I'm assuming that you've had a couple good partners and a couple difficult partners.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. And then I think all the lessons I've learned brought me to this result. I realized, I had a real life, Tony, you're not here every day. And I said, well, I'm in charge of the front of the house. I'm in charge of this piece. You're in charge of that piece. Am I failing in any of my pieces? No, but I'm here every day. Well, stop. FaceTime means nothing to me, right? And when I run a company, I've had companies with 200-300 employees. I don't care if you're there. I care if you do your job well.
Okay.
And I think that's important. Is that some people are so into FaceTime. You're late. Where are you? And that's not productive.
Sure. So, what's the biggest advice you think you could give an entrepreneur?
The biggest advice? Oh,
no pressure.
I think there's a lot of advice, right? Because the whole
Sure.
point is that every industry and every entrepreneur has different challenges depending on the industry and depending on how they're getting funded. I think an important part is being open to people that around you that are giving you good advice. I think I see too many guys who are dead set in their ways. They want to run it this way. They think they know the best way to run it. They think they have all the answers, and none of us do. I don't, you don't, none of us do. I mean, I learn to this day. I mean, every single business transaction I do, I end up learning something new. And even though I've dealt with a lot of successful guys who've done great things, if they're constantly learning, because our industry is everything's constantly evolving. Tech is constantly evolving. Even our workforce is evolving. The type of workers are out there are evolving. I think you always have to kind of I always ask myself questions. I question myself, my own decisions constantly. Some people make a decision today and they're like, well, I've decided that's on the shelf. I'm not gonna think about that for 4 years. I like to reevaluate the decisions I make because I made that decision today, it made sense today for the business, but 12 months later, it might not make sense. I can be wrong, and I am wrong often.
Sure.
I think it's important.
So let's talk about exits, right? And how, because that's a big part of your journey, right?
Yes.
And it's made you who you are.
Correct.
As an entrepreneur. So can you talk about your experience with that and how you got to the understanding that you have?
Yeah, the first company I ever sold, I had no idea how you value a company. And we had a company that we did remote. It was in the mortgage industry. We did remote notary signings. So I built this database of this is pre-web, really, pre-everything. So I built an access database with a bunch of notaries that everyone can hit, that we can rate the notary. So when our customers came in and said, I need a signing in Kentucky, because we're dealing with national lenders, we knew who in Kentucky was reliable. And it was like an internal Yelp, right? Nobody raked them except for our employees. And based on if they're on time, if they're professional, we had this little ranking system. And so we built this like internal system where we knew, I use longitude, latitude based on geographic regions, who to send as a notary. So when I was offered to someone, when they wanted to buy my company, a bigger, it was actually an escrow title company, I had no idea what to value it at. They wanted that service. We were so busy. They kind of wanted just preferential treatment, and finally said, "We want to buy your company. What do you want for it?"
Sure.
I had no idea how to value it. So I just threw out a number, and they're like, "Okay." I'm like, "Okay."
Left some money on the table.
I have no idea. At the time, it felt like a lot of money.
Sure.
And I just told myself, what number would be happy with? And I sold it, and I'm like, again, what now? Right? I have a lot of what now times in my life where I'm like, well, that's over. What now? A big part of any business I want to get into is can you replicate? Can you scale? And to create value, as we both know, a lot of people know, the stock market, business are valued a lot about not only what they're making, is what their potential is, future value. And I think any business that is, first, if a business is not scalable, it's tough for me to get involved. Building a company has to be, like for instance, the signing company, notary company, the national signing company that we spoke of earlier, that's super scalable. That is, if you build the right foundation, you have the right marketing, your market share, even 10% of the market share nationwide is a huge number. And then that valuation of that company can go higher and higher. Back then I didn't know that, now I do in hindsight. So most companies I want to get involved with have a ceiling that is higher than I want to reach, or I dare to reach. A lot of owners of companies buy companies so they have a job. And that's what you end up selling. And those valuations are very arbitrary. Now, if you sell a scalable company, then you can start applying the multiples. You can start applying industry averages. You can start knowing what the value of your company is. And you can start working towards how do you increase the value of your company versus just making cash flow.
Sure.
And so you build your company differently because of that. You care about residual income. You care about monthly income. You care about, just the type of customers and type of business you go after is a little different if you're looking to sell.
Sure. So economies of scale are really important, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, Tony, I really appreciate your time today. And as far as the audience goes, thank you for listening. It's been wonderful to be able to talk to Tony about his experiences. And, if you guys want to learn more, please hit us up and we'll definitely be willing to discuss this in a broader discussion.
So Boise Startup Week is all about trailblazers and learning from trailblazers. And also, just along the way, different innovators and the way that they have dealt with challenges and the way they have brought certain things to market. What Tony Sang had to talk about as far as adversity and just how adversity really spurs him to innovate and to refine processes was really a great nugget to take away. Sometimes when things are going smoothly, we get complacent, and it just isn't the same environment that we get when things are a little challenging. So, and of course, right now we know that things are more than a little challenging. Pandemic disruption has changed our way of life in a lot of ways. So when the pandemic emerged and things went on lockdown, we asked ourselves as a communication and marketing firm what we could do for our company and then for the companies that we represent. And we identified two critical tools that needed to be deployed immediately. And one is a crisis communication plan. Hopefully, the crisis communication plan has been already developed before the disruption, but that crisis communication plan gives you the agility and the confidence to be able to communicate with your internal and external stakeholders in a way that retains the trust they have in you. The other part of that is keeping your conversation relevant, and that's looking at your content. Doing a full content audit in a major disruption is critically important. So looking at are the conversations, the messages, the visuals, the way that you are deploying your communication, is it engaging and relevant and responsible for the new normal? So we're so excited to have Derek Hood with us today. He is a serial entrepreneur in the restaurant space. He started with Primo's, a pizza chain, and then moved to Lucky Finn's, one of my favorites. Derek was in the middle of standing up his latest dining experience in Eagle, Idaho. Crave, just a fantastic spot, right in the middle of the lockdown. And he has some great insights that he has come away with throughout his career, but especially his latest challenge. And so Christopher D. Jones sat down with him at his location there in Eagle, and we're going to just get a lot out of his conversation.
As you guys all know, what we're really trying to do is highlight different entrepreneurs and some of the success stories they've had. Derek just opened a restaurant, Crave Kitchen, as he mentioned, and that opened during the health crisis. So he has some interesting insight into how that went and how it impacted him and broadly the restaurant industry. There's a statistic that recently came out that mentioned that there's over $250 billion in lost revenue anticipated for this year in the restaurant industry. So, it's definitely a challenging time to be able to open one given the restrictions. So Derek, tell me a little bit about your entrepreneur story.
Sure. Well, I guess it started right out of college. I got a chance to move to Boise in 1991, opened up the Chili's on Broadway, and actually worked there for 10 years. A lot of experience, kind of working for a national chain, corporate chain, so to speak. And ironically enough, we were a franchise group, so I got a chance to have some ownership. When we sold the company, I stayed on for probably about another year afterwards and decided that, with all the changes and the corporate lifestyle, I decided I'd like to try to take a stab at it on my own. So I actually started a pizza restaurant chain called...
What was the name of the pizza place?
Called Primo's.
Okay.
So started that. Had one unit here in Boise and wound up growing that to 8 units, one all the way out in Wyoming, a couple in Oregon, wound up franchising that. And that's really kind of my first taste into the entrepreneurial spirit. That was you learned a lot from your first rodeo, so to speak.
Oh, I'm sure. And obviously, that's probably a cumulative learning experience, right? Every opportunity.
You figured out real quick, banks don't like restaurants, so.
Sure, or any startups for that matter, right?
So you get your first startup going and you got to be creative, right? So heard a lot of no's. We'll come back and see us when you're up and running.
So, obviously when you started this company or restaurant,
right.
You did so right in the middle of the pandemic. Tell me a little bit about that. I'm curious.
Sure. I took some time off. I took about 18 months off from traveling and all the ins and outs of all of the Fins concepts. I just took a step back, tried to spend some time with my son. Just wanted to get away from the business for a little bit. In the meantime, through all of my travels and all the different things, you also see a lot of different restaurants in Scottsdale or California or Denver. So as I travel, you always kind of pick up on little things. And during that time, started kind of looking at restaurant sites and different things, and this site actually came available. Once again, it goes back to the relationships. A guy named Michael Deeds, known to him for quite some time. He writes for The Statesman. Obviously, plans get out. People, you start seeing a brand new project in Eagle, et cetera. You kind of work those people, and then they try to help communicate it out. Like I said, I'm not technology challenged. I mean, I am technology challenged. So for me, social media and all of that, luckily we had people on our team that really embraced that and knew how to manage that, how to benefit all of that. The digital marketing, whether it be Indeed, website. I mean, if you can't do it on your phone, somehow, even in our business, I mean, people want the app, they want to be able to order online, they want to be able to pick it up. I mean, everything is so technology driven. It's amazing how it's just kind of integrated even to the restaurant business.
One of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs talk about is how they take the one central message and they utilize multiple platforms to do that. I think they call it omni-channel.
Okay.
Do you guys really focus around that particular aspect, or have you guys created a central message?
I guess we each of us have a different role that we kind of play. We've got some some people that help with the social media aspect.
Sure.
But as far as the actual central marketing message, you know, I believe in the 4 walls marketing.
What is that?
You get people inside your 4 walls,
Okay.
and you take care of people. You take care of them through service. You take care of them through food. If you do that, when they leave the restaurant, hopefully they're going to go out and market for you. So I call it 4 walls marketing. It's kind of the old grassroots, you know, playbook, right? But that's all I know is, you know, being in this business is, you know, and people say, who's your competition?
Yeah.
You know, the standard, everybody's like, well, no, it's not. We're our biggest competition. Usually we'll screw it up before anybody else can, you know, do it. So for us, it's take care of your 4 walls and let everything else, you know, take care of itself. But once again, you've got a team though that's also helping promote on the outside. So kind of the operations on one side and then all the support groups on the other. To me, people, they want to come to dinner for an experience. I mean, especially now that the entertainment, I mean, there's no concerts. I mean, so basically a lot of the entertainment in the format is really going out to eat, being social with people. Can't really go to the bars. So we try to create that experience for people when they come in and make them feel warm, just like they would, like if I was going over your house and for one of your parties, the way you make me feel. I mean, hey, what can I get for you? Just, once again, it's just finding your niche and just believing and don't settle. I mean, that's the, you know, once you get to a certain point, you know, you try to stay humble.
Yeah, you get comfortable.
You can get very comfortable, but all it takes is one thing to kind of knock you off your pedestal or get you bouncing around sideways. So being humble, being thankful, being appreciative to people, especially all of the people that work here. I mean, these people run the risk of getting COVID and taking it back to their family, you know, and but you know, they're trying to provide for their family. So it's a
true public servants in that
well,
way.
you know,
right?
it is. I mean, I'd rather have 70 people working than, you know, everyone sitting at home, not, you know, trying to worry about things.
Yeah,
So,
no, for sure. So what inspiring words would you provide to a starting entrepreneur or someone that's just getting going?
Man, start with your dream, your vision, and like I said earlier, the hardest part is the first step. You know, you can put it all on paper, you can put it all on pencil, you can talk to whoever you want to, but if you don't have the conviction to handle no and to get around obstacles and go through whatever you need to do, it's going to be a difficult, challenging situation. I mean, I don't know, it seems like in today's times it gets tougher, not easier to do business, whether it's technology, restaurants, travel. I mean, you know, there's, you know, expectations are higher. That's it, you know, but you got to get used to taking no, and you got to find ways around obstacles. That would be my, because there's a lot of naysayers out there. There really are.
Well, that's great. Well, Derek, I really appreciate you taking the time to allow me to interview you. I think this is going to matter to a lot of the inspiring, you know, inspiring a lot of the entrepreneurs out there. And so thank you
Thanks
very
for having
much.
me, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it.
That conversation was just a great resource for any business, really, but especially if you're in the restaurant space. What Derek achieved during the lockdown with standing up Crave, just a great act of agility and resilience. I loved his 4 walls marketing. That's the experiential piece and the engagement piece that we work with here at Urban Link Group. Part of that integrated marketing communication sphere that we deploy for our clients. And you know, that's the resilience in marketing. You know, Boise Startup Week, they pivoted to a virtual event, and that's resilient. You being here today and consuming this content, that's an act of resilience on your part. And we just want to thank you. We want to invite you to stick around for more great content. If you want to get a hold of us, there'll be some resources in this platform. We do offer free consultations. We love to support small businesses and new startups. So get a hold of us. We'd love to chat.